If you've been around me long enough, you might have learned that one of my very favorite stories is the story of stone soup. It's this story that I heard in preschool, and we all brought different things, and we made stone soup, and it just kind of stuck in my head. And so this story has been with me for a long time. And it's the story, you might remember or have heard it, of soldiers who are coming back from some war or another through this area that has been torn by war. And the soldiers are hungry, and it's getting to be nighttime, and they're hoping to find a safe place to rest in this village, and if they're lucky, maybe even some food. And so they come to the village and they start knocking on doors. And in the best of times, someone knocking on your door who is hungry may or may not get a good reception. But after a community has seen battle and war and all the things that does to an area and to their farmland, you can imagine that the reception wasn't great. And so these two guys go knocking, and the first house, they say, is there any chance that you might have a little bit of food to share? We're going to be sleeping out in the village square, and we wondered if you might have something to share. And the woman who answers the door says, I have 2 carrots, and I have 5 kids. No, I don't have anything to share. And so they go knocking on the next door, and the next person has a potato or 2, but not enough really for more than their family. So no, we're very sorry. And somebody has maybe half a cabbage left, and they're really looking forward to eating that with their family, but that's it. Nobody has enough to share. They go all throughout the town, and so they're hungry. They've gotten turned down at every doorstep, and the one soldier says to the other, well, let's just, we're going to have hungry bellies tonight. Let's roll over and go to bed. And the other says, well, don't give up yet. Don't give up yet. And so he said, I've got an idea. And he gathers some folks around, and sometimes it's the kids that are out kicking around, and he says, you know what? I'm going to make dinner. It's going to be so fabulous. I just need a little bit of help with the equipment. I cannot wait to taste this soup. I have the best recipe. It is the best soup. And so, all I need is a pot. And one of the little kids says, well, my mom's got a pot. I'll go get it. And so he gets the pot and he lights a fire. And then he says, now we need 2 of the best, shiniest, cleanest stones. And so some kiddo goes and finds the best stones, and they wash them off real good. He said, now this is the secret ingredient. And I put it in there, and then someone brings some well water, and he's starting to heat it up and stir it. And he says, stone soup is really good, but carrots really add something. And at this point, the village has kind of all come out to watch this strange man making soup out of rocks. And, carrots really add something. And, well, I could share a carrot. Okay, fine. And so, there's going to be soup for everyone. I can throw a carrot in. And so someone brings a carrot. And then, what would really do would be, sort of a ham bone. And, someone has one. They've been saved. Okay. And pretty soon this pot has carrots and cabbage, potatoes, and all the things that he just happened to know some people might have. And it feeds the town. And everybody comes together and eats, and there is enough, and there is leftover. And this story is so neat about the ways that it reminds us that what we don't think is very much, what we don't think is enough, what we don't think we can share, turns out to be more than enough when someone presents it in a different fashion, right? Everybody ate and was filled because everybody was willing to share. So that story has always been something that I've loved, something that has been with me for a long time, because I think a lot of times we feel like, well, I only have these 2 carrots. I'm sure, God, that you would like me to do X, Y, or Z, but these are the only resources I have. So I can't do that. I can't, talk about you in public because I'm shy. You didn't give me courage, God, so I don't have the resources to do that. All of those things. We're pretty sure a lot of times that we've got a lot of nothing. At least I know I am. And so this story encourages me. But even more, the story of Jesus feeding these people is an encouragement, because yes, what I think is nothing can be put together with other people's little bits of nothing to make enough, right? That's the stone soup story. But the story of Jesus here isn't like that, because Jesus is showing us what God is like. And God is the God that made the whole world out of nothing, right? makes something out of nothing. One author I read this week reminded me that nothing is God's favorite thing to work with. Nothing. And then suddenly, here it is. And so this story of Jesus isn't a story of everybody chipping in their one carrot, and if you like to sort of explain miracles and try to understand how the laws of nature might not have been broken, then people say, well, the miracle is that everyone shared. But that's not what this story is about. This story is about what God is like. And sometimes what we bring is like that little youngster. We bring our lunch. We bring what we've got, and it's 2 carrots, or it's 5 loaves and 2 fish, or it's, my limited mental capacity for this day, my limited enthusiasm, just what I can muster, God, here it is. And sometimes we bring that. But a lot of times we're like the other 4,999 and 12 disciples, and we bring nothing. Nothing. We've got nothing, God, and here we are. All we can do is bring you our hunger. All we can bring you is our need. All we can bring you is the idea that you have what we need. And God says, oh yeah, I can work with nothing. Oh yeah, I can create what you need. I can fill your needs. I work with nothing. I work with your hunger and your needs. So what this crowd brings to Jesus is not, some more food for him to offer up, but it's their sense that he has what they need. And God says, that's what I can work with. I have a lot of stories where God seems to work with nothing in my life, but one that always comes back to me is a time that I was working in a dementia facility in our town. It was my summer job in college, and so I was about 19, and by virtue of being the English speaker, I became the activities director. And I was not qualified. I wasn't sure what would qualify somebody to do this, but I assumed there was some sort of training or expertise or maybe a social work degree, or I don't know, but I had nothing except sort of the ability to hold a conversation with folk and some good intentions. But what I had a lot of was guilt, because I was sure I couldn't do this job and I was doing it wrong and someone was going to catch me, and I wasn't earning my $7 an hour, and it was pretty silly, but in my mind that's where I was at, and it was just overwhelming. And so I would go every day with a pit in my stomach, and I would do my best, and there were the 5 activities that were listed for the day, and that filled about an hour and a half. And then we had the rest of the day to fill, and it wasn't at the point yet where I understood that taking a walk in the garden was an activity that was acceptable and, in fact, good for our folks. So I was feeling just awful, and usually I'd get to lunch, and then after lunch was that 2 or 3 hour period where it was just, I don't know what we're going to do. Hummingbirds. And so I would sort of dread that time of day, and I would have nothing. And at some point, someone had washed through with some church group and sat down and played the piano for folks, and there was a hymnal. And my piano skills, despite my mother being a piano teacher, had atrophied pretty well to the point where I could pick out a melody just fine, and maybe once in a while get my left hand to do something, but not a lot. But I needed the words of comfort that were in those hymns. And it was a Baptist hymnal, so I had to flip and flip till I found one that I knew. But I kept looking, and I found, and so I sat down, and I thought, I'm just going to take 5 minutes here to settle myself, and we're going to just plink out these hymns and sing. And it turned out to be what happened every day after lunch. I was meeting my need for God to show up in some sort of a way and say, you're going to get through this day, you can do this, or I can do this through you. And it turned out that, as you play, something floats down the hall, and over there, Mrs. Jones starts humming. She sits down next to you, starts patting your leg, And then you hear this beautiful descant floating from down the hallway, and Estelle, who is never happy and never settled and never feels like she is at home because she's in that place in her disease, suddenly knows the words, and in fact knows this beautiful soprano part. And it turns out that Estelle was a church musician, which I didn't know. And so it became this time for us to feed one another's souls, and for God to be there with us in a way that we couldn't imagine, that I hadn't expected, and that connected very well for a number of the folks that were with us. It fed us day after day, and it came not out of my ability to sit down and say, well, I'm going to play the piano for you because that's a gift I've got. It came out of desperation. Oh, there's a hymnal. Maybe it will tell me something about Jesus. I need Jesus right now. And that's what God worked with. And I think that that is again and again what happens in Scripture is that we come to Jesus and maybe we think we're offering our carrots, or maybe we're clear that we don't have any carrots to offer. And God says, okay, now that you're clear about what you need and where to find it, let's get this started. Let's sit down and eat. And that is the good news for us this morning, for us as we go out into the world and eat our lunch at work, for us as we look at what does it mean to serve God in this world, and we say, I don't have very much. God says, good, good. You don't have very much. Now you're ready to lean on me. Now you're ready to receive what I have to give. Thanks be to God.